All right, last section of this worksheet, okay? We can do this. Number 12, determine the domain and range for each of the graphs numbers 1 through 10. You may use words or symbols, okay? So I chose graphs number 4, 5, and 10 to work on with you guys. So those are the ones that I've copied and pasted down below. Once again, you don't have it here. You just have your graphs, you know, on your worksheet. But I just copied and pasted it just so that we can look at them easier, okay? So we are going to be looking for the domain and range. Let me remind you that the domain has to do with the x values. Which also means that that's the left and right direction. Okay, and then the range, that's the y values. And that would be the up and down direction. So you'll see what I mean in just a little bit. I also want to, no, I think that's all for now. Okay, so let's start with number 4, this one. And I'll write it over here, the answers. So number 4, let's start with the domain. So we want to see how far left and how far right our graph goes. So I want you to first take a look at the left side of the graph. Do you see that arrow over there? That arrow means that this graph will continue to the left forever and forever and forever. I know it looks like it's just pointing upwards, but if you look at it carefully, it's not straight up. It's up and a little bit to the left, which means it is going left, because if it just continues going a little to the left, a little to the left, a little to the left, forever and ever, it's still going to get to negative infinity. Okay, so it's all the way to the left. Now I want you to take a look at the right side of the graph. It goes all the way to the right, forever and ever, because there is an arrow. So since our graph for number 4 extends all the way to the left and all the way to the right, oops, my bad, that just means, let me write it down, all the way left and all the way right. What that means is that the domain, remember, domain is the left and right direction. We said that domain is the left and right direction. That means the domain is what we would call all real numbers. And remember how I told you all real numbers to you pretty much means all the numbers that you know? That's because if I go all the way to negative infinity, and if I go all the way to positive infinity, to the left and to the right, that means we're just covering all the numbers, okay? So that's why for number 4, the domain is all real numbers. So I wrote that over here. Okay? So I guess let's write our range now. So for the range, I want you to take a look at how far up and down our graph goes. So take a look at the top part of your graph and notice that the top part still has all of those arrows, right? Now take a look at the bottom part of your graph. The bottom part, it has an absolute minimum. What number do you think that minimum is at? You can count it. It goes from the origin, this is 0, 0, goes down 1, down 2, so this is negative 2. So that means we have a dot at negative 2, and we have everything on top. So like negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, all of that's included in our graph because the arrows point upwards. So what you want to write is y is greater than or equal to negative 2. Have you guys learned these symbols yet? I can't remember. Hopefully you have. So let me recap it. Think of these symbols as like a Pac-Man mouth, okay? Like here's Pac-Man. So if this is a mouth opening to the left side, that means this is bigger and this is small. And why does it open to the big side? Because you want to eat more. I mean, I don't know about you, but I like eating. So eat more, okay? So Pac-Man likes to eat more, just like me. And so just like Pac-Man, this symbol is going to open to the bigger side. And the range, we're going to write y is greater than or equal to -2, because all the y values that are possible are greater than or equal to -2. Okay, let's talk about number 5. For number 5, let's do the domain first. So here's number 5. We're going to write our answers there. All right, let's take a look at left and right. On the left side, arrow. On the right side, arrow. And so since it goes all the way left and it goes all the way right, that means our domain is all real numbers. All right, what about the range? So for the range, let's take a look at how far up and down our graph goes. So as far as going up, take a look at this arrow on the top. It will go up forever. However, while it is going down forever, remember I told you this is still decreasing, decreasing, decreasing forever. See how it flattens out? It's flattening out because there's something called an asymptote, and I will get into that later. You don't need to know how to spell it. Just know that when it flattens out, it's going to get closer and closer to, let me draw a line. It's going to get closer and closer to this line. And this line is the line y equals 0. Why is it at 0? Because it is at the height of 0. Like if I drew it here, this would be at the height of 1, 2, 3, 4. This would be y is equal to -4. But our graph, number 5, flattens out at y is equal to 0. And so for the range, what I want you to write is y is greater than 0. Greater than because everything sits on top of the blue line that I drew, right? Everything is still on top of our blue line. That's why the y values are bigger. That's why the symbol is eating the y. And it doesn't ever equal 0 because our graph will never ever touch the blue line. Okay? That's just a property of those types of lines, those blue lines. You cannot touch those blue lines, okay? All right, last one for number 10. Number 10, oh, I know I'm not really giving you guys a chance to like pause and think of it for yourself. That's because these are very specific types of problems. I want to make sure you understand them, okay? I'll give you guys a chance to do the range for number 10. Let's do the domain first though. The domain, take a look at what are all the possible x values that number 10 goes to. I'm going to actually zoom in more for number 10. I want you to look at this graph. And I'm going to highlight this point. This has an x value of -10. It's very specific. And like let's say this one has an x value of 0, very specific. This one has an x value of 6. Very specific, but there's nothing in between those. Like you do not have a 0.5. There's nothing where my arrow just pointed right there. There's nothing in there. There's also no 3.5. That's not possible. But you can have all the whole numbers like 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Those are all whole numbers. There's also 3, 2, 1. All of our dots, which are all of our points, they exist at the whole numbers. So we can say domain is all whole numbers. And so the very specific math way to say that, whole numbers, is the same thing as integers. I'll write it neater up top. So for domain, the domain is all integers. See, that's neater. Okay, so because it's made of dots, it's all the integers because those dots are at all the whole numbers. Now I want you to think about the y values that number 10 has. So we can pause for a second and I want you to think about what the range is for number 10. All right, unpause. So don't worry if you didn't get it right. Remember, learning is a process. You probably won't get it right immediately, but if you do, great job. If you don't, great job still. Thanks for trying, okay? We're gonna get it eventually. The range is also all integers. And why is that? Because when you look at the y values over here, like let's say let me put them in blue, okay? This one has a y value of 0. And then, actually, it's not just all integers, is it? Oh no, what happened? Okay, there we go. So that one's a y value of 0. This one's a y value of -1. How do I know that? Here is -1, and you can just point to the dot over there. This one is a y value of -2. This one's -3. Okay, even though they don't label all the numbers. Okay, but there's also all of these half ones, right? We can just call these half integers. All of the in-betweens. So our range is all integers and all half integers. So that means here's like, integers is like whole numbers like 1, 2, 3. And then the half integers is like 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, and so on and so forth. Okay, those are just examples that I put in the parentheses. Alright, so don't worry if you are confused still. Please ask questions and then I will help you as soon as I can, okay? Thank you.